Hi guys, welcome back. This is Matt Chat episode 129, featuring the first part of my interview with a graphics guru, Mr. Mark Soderwall. Mark is an industry veteran with over 20 years experience. He's worked for Atari, LucasArts, Minecraft, and he's got all kinds of game projects ranging from the Magic Candle 3 and Teagle's Mercenaries up to Star Wars The Force Unleashed, NBA Live, Demon's Stone, and much, much more. It was really an honor and pleasure to get to sit down with Mark and have a chat, and I think you'll really enjoy it. So, without further ado, here is Mr. Mark Soderwall.
Alright folks, I'm here with Mark Soderwall. He is a game art and design consultant with over 20 years of experience in the games industry. He's a fantastic guy. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
I thought I'd start off with some of your recent stuff that you got going on. You're a very busy guy.
I try to be. I'll be honest, it's tough.
Tough being busy or not busy enough? Or?
No, always staying busy, but, a lot of people can stay busy, but is it productive? Sometimes there's just keeping busy to just make believe you are busy. But as long as it's going towards something that is, creating a paycheck or is innovating a new concept or something like that, that's what's most important. That's what I really try and focus most of my time on. Trying to stay busy.
I wanted to start off with this, trying to get a feel for the game Creators Vault. I noticed you're really involved in that. I was watching some YouTube interviews about it. It seems like a really valuable resource for anybody who wants to do indie games or wants to get into producing games. So,
yeah.
How'd you get involved in this? And so, what's your philosophy behind it, I guess?
Game Creators Vault was something I started about 2 years ago, at least. There was just because of the fact that I don't have a degree, I don't have a bachelor's degree, I don't have a master's degree, I certainly don't have, a doctorate for any, intents and purposes, because I got into the industry, the gaming industry, right out of high school and kind of never looked back, and I feel like a real opportunity lost there. I've just kind of learned on the job, learned from wonderfully talented people, was lucky enough to be mentored by a number of them. So I had my school there, but because of my lack of degree or formal education, I wasn't able to teach for very long at accredited universities. And that really hurt my heart, as cheesy as it sounds, because I love depositing. I love giving back to students. I love seeing the light go on in people's eyes when they grab a concept, or they've tried something over and over and cycle over cycle, but they just can't get it until somebody gives them the spark or has been there and says, here's a best practice, you should really consider doing this. And then all of a sudden they do it, they achieve something, and now they're innovating and they're making magic. And that's absolutely fantastic. So I figure, well, if the academic world is going to shut me out, I'm going to make my own destiny. And we have this wonderful thing called the World Wide Web. And I figured, you know what? I've got enough credentials. I've got enough game titles. I certainly know a lot of talented people in the industry. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to create this resource called Game Creators Vault. I'm going to put it on Facebook. And I'm going to build a community to give back and to have people share techniques and tools and ideas, student, professional, indie, whatever. It really doesn't matter. It's just a group of like-minded individuals sharing resources, sharing concerns, sharing breakthroughs, sharing problems. And it's just a vehicle. And it's doing really, really well. I've got a group of guys now that have jumped on board with me that are very passionate. They're all college students themselves, some of them going for their film degrees and whatever. So they're running around the place with video cameras, and we're hooking up interviews with professionals that they're sitting down and they're asking questions and they're mining for information. And then we just post it all for free, up on our YouTube channel and a Facebook. And it's being very well received.
Can anybody join this or take advantage of it, or is it?
No, it's a Facebook site. It's just it's completely social. It's completely free, and the only thing I just ask is that don't just get on the site and leech. participate. It might be intimidating to throw a comment or a question out there, but one of the things that I'm really striving to make and to foster is a safe environment. As oxymoron as it sounds on the internet, but I'm really trying to make sure that people feel comfortable on this site, and I'm always reinforcing the fact that, hey, you know what? People are here to learn, and check your ego at the door, because we're all trying to get empowered and inspired. And if you've got a rant or something like that, okay, that's fair, but at least keep it objective. Don't just get on there and just start, name calling and putting people down, because people are trying. And creativity is a process of a lot of failure until you hit to a success. And so we need to garner that support. We need to, just that. We need to be supportive and offer best practices where we can and encouragement.
Is that some swords behind you there? Is that like a sword or a dagger or something?
Yeah, these are from Demonstone.
From Demonstone.
Yeah. So for the game that I did at Atari.
Right.
So
I know the game, but what they gave you the swords is
Yeah, this is these are Drizzt Do'Urden's swords, Twinkle and I can't remember what the other one was called, but no, for just completing the game. It was just kind of a nice little perk that they gave some of the staff for doing that. So, yeah, it was kind of fun.
Hell of a perk.
Yeah.
I want some swords.
It's like at Blizzard, they give you armor, they give you gauntlets and swords, and depending on how long you work there, and it just keeps getting better and better until you basically have a full suit of armor. It's just, it's really cool.
At some point, you probably get a complimentary subscription too, right?
Right. I don't know. No, we'll see.
All right, so I was watching this earlier interview with you, and you said that what you really wanted to see was games get better. And I was just wondering, what do you think is wrong with games that needs to be improved?
Boy, that's a good question, because I hate to slide anything, because there's always good in something, and I'm right. Always trying to be a glass half full kind of guy. But I wouldn't necessarily say, not necessarily that there's anything wrong, but most everybody out there is ranting the fact that the gaming industry right now is, at least the AAA developers and the large publishers, I don't want to name drop, but we all know kind of who they are. They're just kind of doing a lot of more Me Too type of games. Franchises are extending into their third cycle, which isn't a bad thing. Obviously, Modern Warfare is making a killing. So obviously there's a fan base out there for this stuff, and I don't knock that at all. But one of the things that I've started to notice is the fact that not a lot of these developers, because they put so much money and they have such big marketing budgets towards these titles, I'm oversimplifying, but they want to keep it safe. They want to target a market that's out there that's a known quantity, I guess. And so what it is that we're finding, which I think is terribly cool, is this indie community and students that are creating these wild games that are very innovative, and they've got brand new mechanics that have a little bit of a learning curve, but boy, they're fun, because they're very immersive once you kind of get it. Obviously, there's these social and casual games that are wonderful, because now they're starting to generate community. Casual players or social players that really wouldn't touch a hardcore game or a FPS or an RTS are now able to find enjoyment in an interactive experience that's relational, which I think is very cool. And and then of course the indie games that are out there, like the XBLA games and a lot of the PC games. They're fantastic. And so one of the things that I've been noticing at a lot of conferences is a lot of these conferences now have kind of indie areas, in student areas where they're showing off their games and they're showing off their projects, and hopefully to get noticed or something of that nature. But one of the things that's a real risk that, of course, I know they're aware of, but I've noticed executives from certain studios and different things like that kind of walking the perimeter and checking things out and writing down notes and God only knows what they're doing. I mean, they could be going back to their studios and being like, okay, we've got a whole new mechanic we've got to work on, because, such and such at DePaul University, or, whoever is doing this, so let's scoop them, or, there's a big conspiracy theory out there. But I just find it very ironic that a lot of the innovation that we're seeing and a lot of the new trends are coming almost from non-professionals or students, or these small band of professionals that are just like, hey, we don't really have to answer to anybody. We have a very small budget. We have a lot of passion. We definitely got some time. So let's kind of kick the four walls down and see what new mechanic we can come up with, or dynamic. And I love that. I think that's awesome, and it's fun.
Yeah, several of the game designers with substantial experience anyway have talked about is they see us right now as in this sort of golden age of game development. And they cite exactly what you're talking about, the fact that you can make a game for the iPhone or the iPad, or have a browser game. The costs are very low. You don't have to go through a publisher, all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, do you think we're in a golden age?
Oh, definitely. I definitely think so. I mean, look at all the accessibility, like you're saying, Matt, that's out there. You've got UDK, you've got Unreal, this insane game engine for free, with the little tack on the end that says, well, if you do publish a game for money and revenue, well, after a certain amount of units, then you're going to pay us a royalty. You've got a vehicle like the App Store or Android or App Up with Intel or something like that. It's like, yeah, you want to go ahead and produce a game, that's fine. You can put it up here. We're going to take a percentage of it, but there you go. No need for a publisher anymore. You got Crytek, that has come out with the free engine now. Of course, Unity is just blitzkrieging everywhere because of its accessibility and its ability to port to multiple platforms more or less on a button click. And then, of course, you've got all of the development tools as far as art asset tools like Blender. And there's a number of others that are free. So I mean, it's just like you can work on a game on a crazy budget. As long as you've got an idea, and you get a solid team of people around you that aren't flaky, that are going to have ownership and show up and do their tasks, so they're not holding anybody up. You could really make something happen. And yes, that is a golden age. And I love this time in the industry. I really do, because everything is turned on its ear, and it's wonderful.
I'm just sort of curious, what are some of these games that have come out that just sort of really blew you away and amazed you?
Well, let's see. One of the games that came out, obviously Minecraft. That's just been talked about over and over, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but insane innovation and just the ability to just create a sandbox, throw in some really killer tools in there, and then just let people just generate their own content and then post it back up. It's so cool, and it's so sophisticated on such what seems like a relatively simple mechanic. Other simple games like Super Meat Boy. You're this little meat blob that is put in this insane platform environment with every kind of lethal bladed tool after you, and you've got to avoid it, and the whole game is based on, the entertainment part of it is how many different ways you can die, and it's so repetitive and it's so fast. A game that I'm having a ton of fun with right now is it's a game that's available on Steam and XBLA, is Dungeon Defenders.
Oh, right.
Dungeon Defenders is just fantastic because it totally fits an ADD personality like mine, where it's, you've got tower defense meets action adventure meets RPG. So you've got this amalgamation of these different genres all thrown into one. It's like, brilliant. That's so awesome, because now I can actually have a gaming experience, because my time is obviously very limited. I can go into a game where I get all three for one, and it's just like, oh, that's fantastic. So that's just a handful of examples, but there was one game that was made by a number of students at DePaul about 2 years ago. I met them at GDC, and it was called The Devil's Tuning Fork. And it was a very cool game because the whole environment was black. You couldn't see a darn thing until you radiated out this sonar pulse, which blanketed the environment with light for a very short amount of time, so you were able to see the scale of where everything was and where you needed to go, the point of interest. It was just brilliant. It was absolutely fantastic, and so everything in the game dealt with sound. And that's the kind of innovation that I'm talking about. It's really, really cool.
I know a lot of the guys that we associate with over at Armchair Arcade and such. They want to develop games. I mean, they want to join this indie scene, but they'll work on a game for a little while, and then it just sort of fizzles out. They don't seem to ever finish. I know your big thing is you got to have a good practice. Best design practices. So, I mean, what's your advice? I mean, how do you motivate somebody to see a project through to completion?
Really, what it comes down to is just. It almost sounds so silly. It's just to keep it simple. The thing that kills people is the fact that they do what we call in the industry feature creeping. They kind of solve a portion of the puzzle or a portion of the feature, and then they get excited that it's almost there, that they get distracted onto something else, and so that stays kind of a half-baked idea, but it's foundational, where all the other potential mechanics rely on that core feature. So one of the things that I like to say is, if you're building a game or you've got a title, try and think of it this way. If you had a title on a game, and then underneath that title, there was a marketing pitch of, for the first time ever, what is that? What is that hook? What is that main core feature of design? For the first time ever, you have terrain deformation. Like Prince of Persia, for the first time ever, you control time. For the first time ever, whatever. Okay, now that is your hook. All right. So spend all of your time and effort prototyping and building out that main core feature until you get it to such a demo state that it's solid and it's not going to break. And of course it's fun. But once that building block is there, oh my God, then you can just pile on all day long and use that literally as a platform to now start innovating other types of features and ideas and so on and so forth. So again, my advice, which is hard, believe me, I know, is just to really just try and keep it simple. And once you get over that one main hurdle, that one main core feature, everything else, I don't want to say becomes easy, but it remains exciting, and it's just really cool.
Yeah, you got me psyched, but I'm just thinking, the first time ever, I don't know what I could do. First time ever, what? I mean, hasn't everything been done? I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, that was where I heard that term actually came from a really good friend of mine, a colleague I worked with at LucasArts. He was their business development director. His name was Harry Kenny. And so as a biz dev director, here was a guy that would get a lot of pitches all the time across his desk. Studios X, Y, and Z would want their game to be done by LucasArts or published by them or something of that nature. So he had to have this very quick filtering system. And so when he'd get on the phone with these guys, or, they would come in for a pitch, he would just kind of just lean forward on his desk and he said, if you had a box cover and it said, for the first time ever, how would you finish that sentence? And you'd be surprised how many professional developers couldn't answer that, because they've got a myriad of ideas and they've got all these different features they want to introduce, but they didn't have a solid core foundation, and that's what you need. And so that in and of itself is a best practice right there. Come up with a solid concept first, make sure that mechanic is solid, and then expand from there.
And that's all for this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Should be back next week with another segment of this interview with Mark Soderwall. Have a lot of content left. It's great stuff, so stay tuned for that. Of course, I also want to wish you happy holidays. In addition to thanking everyone who has supported and contributed to the show, really means a lot to me. I have a couple of announcements too. First one is I have completed Thrust Lifter. This is my third game. It's available at Armchair Arcade. You can try it out for free. Although I ask if you do like it, then please register it. I'm only asking for $2. Of course, you are welcome to pay more if you like the game more. It's completely up to you. That's at armchairarcade.com. I'll post some links to you on the show notes. Also, I want to announce the Slog-a-thon. It's a little bit late to be announcing this. It's happening on December 26th. Basically, what I'm hoping is that a group of us can get together and play some really obscure but great CRPGs. Spend about 6 hours slogging through it on the 26th. Anytime, there's not a particular time for this. But the plan is that after we've slogged for about 6 hours, we'll post about it there at Armchair Arcade so we can get a feel for some of these various CRPGs. Now, it has to be a CRPG that you've never played before, and preferably something obscure that not everybody's played to death. Okay, whew, let's get to the ale of the week. This is a Leech Monster Brew. It's a Scottish ale brewed by the Leech Lake Brewing Company, and I was quite excited to see that these guys are actually from Walker, Minnesota. Not sure how far that is from St. Cloud, Minnesota, but maybe if I enjoy this ale enough, I'll find out where it is and visit the brewing company. But let's open her up and give her a taste. All right, let's give her a go. Pour some in my rather excellent drinking horn here. This is the proper receptacle, of course, for Leech Monster. Put her over there. I guess it's a her, right? Is a Leech Monster male or female? Or can't really tell from the picture there, but let's give her a taste. Kind of a chocolatey smell, sort of similar to the one I had last week, except I don't smell nearly the amount of alcohol. This is a 6%. I think the one from last week was like 10%, so shouldn't be nearly as strong. Let's give it a taste, though. It's quite subtle, quite nice. Chocolatey again, a little bit of a sort of a cherry. Seems like a lot lighter than the one from last week too. I mean, I can see sitting back with a couple glasses of this around the old Christmas tree or fireplace if you're lucky enough to have one. Quite nice. I'm not sure why they called it Leech Monster. Hoping I'll find a little surprise at the bottom of the bottle. But anyway, let's wrap this up. The quotation this week comes from Herman Melville, the author of a certain book about whales, and it goes something like this: "It is better to fail at originality than to succeed in imitation." See you guys next week.